Yeah. Hello. Good morning. Holy cow. Wow. Pardon my back for a second here, folks. I'm going to bring us a little closer to the screens. Yeah. Oh, hey. Not that. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah. Well, a little rough start this morning. For some reason, I tried to go live about 10 minutes ago on another platform, and lo and behold, I couldn't go live. It's back to, it's still here. It's still messed up. So, we won't be going live that way. I'm back to the phone here, which still works, thankfully. Hello, Ghana. Hello, Ghana. I gotta put my glasses on. The print on the phone is rather small. Good night. Alfredo, where are you located? It's afternoon here. I'm in the PST, in the Arizona desert. Yeah. Well, today I'm going to talk about Dizzy. I want to get your thoughts as well. I am a lifelong Dizzy Gillespie fan. Love Dizzy. Love his music. Love the guy. Joshua Levinson. Now, I know some Levinsons. I know Jeffrey Levinson. I know Rob Levinson, who's no longer with us, very close friend of mine. Hello, Meta Name. Meta, that's a good first name. Ciao, Antonio. I hope that, where are you from, Joshua? I hope, Antonio, your name might indicate you're from Italy. I hope things are getting better. Hello from Florida, Cobb. What part of Florida? That great state of Florida. I like Florida. R.B. Frew, trumpet player, composer from Brooklyn. Yeah. Hello, Seattle. Hello, Boston. Yeah, we're from all over the world, aren't we? Plainfield, New Jersey, birthplace of Bill Evans. Albert Cooper, MD, NYC. Wow, Albert, that's got to be a stressful thing right now to be a doctor in New York City. My heart goes out. Hello, St. Louis. Thank you, doctors. Thank you, nurses. Thank you, first responders. Thank you, grocery workers. Thanks to all the people who are making a difference now and not screaming like banshees about their absolute power. So today is April 14th. As it turns out, today's the birthday of a couple of musicians that I love and respect. Pardon me while I take my medication. Not my medication. I take a lot of supplements every day. This one is good old fish oil. Going food shopping. Okay. I start the day with a smoothie. I have a... yes, there will be live jazz again. Don't worry. It's coming back. It won't be a Walmart. It won't be a Costco. It's here on the web. So, two musicians celebrating birthdays today. Answers questioned. Yes, I'm trying to stay healthy. So today is the birth anniversary of Gene Ammons and Shorty Rogers. Gene Ammons, one of the great tenor saxophone players, old school tenor players with a big sound, a huge sound, which brings to mind a story. There used to be a fantastic jazz performance space in Baltimore. Anybody from Baltimore in the house today? Let me go over this a little bit. I can't talk here. The Left Bank Jazz Society. You may have heard of it. And one time, I guess in the 60s, the early 60s, Gene Ammons and Sonny Stitt were playing together a lot. Two tenors. They did a lot of two-tenor battles in the tradition of Wardell Gray and Lester Young. Wardell Gray and Dexter Gordon, excuse me. Johnny Griffin and Eddie Lockjaw Davis. Anyway, Sonny Stitt and Gene Ammons were playing a gig at the Left Back Jazz Society. Sonny Stitt was an incredible technician on the saxophone, incredible musician, real master of the instrument, of music in general. And I don't know what song they were playing, but he went out there and he took this unbelievable solo. He pulled out all the stops, as some master instrumentalists are wont to do. So Gene Ammons had to follow that. What did he do? He got up, he played one note. That note he held, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. It was just the power of his sound, the power of his playing, his energy. At first, people, what's he doing? But then as it went on, they were like, oh my God, oh my God. That was his entire solo, one note. Standing ovation, just tore the place up. So please, oops, sorry about that. Please go check out Gene Ammons if you haven't heard him. He's all over YouTube. And look for a track called Talk That Talk. Gene Ammons and Sonny Stitt, an old Prestige recording from the 60s. The other guy who was born today was a great trumpeter, arranger, and big band leader, Shorty Rogers. Shorty was a studio musician, producer. He did a lot of stuff in the 50s. A lot of the LPs that I first looked at in a record store when I got into jazz in the early 60s were Shorty Rogers LPs on RCA Records with a lot of really cool covers. When I first got into jazz, the record store had these listening booths where you literally would pick out a record. These were LPs. And you'd bring it to the booth and you'd listen to it. And wow, there was no internet back then. There was no streaming. Shut my cowboy... I don't know. Cowboys. Something about the Cowboys. I don't know if it's the Dallas Cowboys or whatever. Anyway, happy birthday, although they're dead. Happy birth anniversary to the great Gene Ammons and to Shorty Rogers. Please check out their music. Now, Dizzy Gillespie. Yeah. So, I don't know if I put the links in there yet, but I will. I want to talk about Dizzy today. I want to talk about his influence as a musician, as a trumpeter, and as a person. Dizzy was, now there we go. Dizzy Gillespie live at Newport 1957. Thank you, Elizabeth. That was one of the first LPs I ever bought and the first Dizzy Gillespie record I ever bought. And I was taking trumpet lessons and someone said, you got to check out Dizzy Gillespie. Somehow I bought that particular record and man, the top of my head came off. The trumpet playing on there was just unbelievable. The big band, the excitement, and also Dizzy himself. What a cool, funny guy. What a warm, ebullient personality. Some musicians just go up on the stage and they play. And that is okay. I mean, Miles would turn his back on the audience sometimes. He just didn't want to connect to the audience at all. But Cannonball loved to talk to the audience. He would give these introductions. Cannonball was so hip. Today's smoothie is, I've got banana, I've got mixed berry, I've got protein powder, I've got flaxseed, I've got almond milk, I've got apple, and I've got orange. Yeah, that's the good stuff. So Dizzy's Blues, the first track on that, which you can hear on YouTube. I'll put the link in the description after this is over. Wow, the energy behind that. I mean, that just totally blew my mind. I didn't, Jason. I mean, check Jason Perry. I need some chia seeds. Could you fax me some chia? Wouldn't it be great if you could fax food? Fax me a pizza. So Dizzy just totally blew me away. And the second Dizzy record I got was Dep Cat, Herbie's later stuff. We'll talk about Herbie another time. You know, I can't talk about everything, all the comments and everything here as we go on. I'm talking about Dizzy today. Second Dizzy record I got was Dizzy Live on the French Riviera. I don't know if you can hear it in the background here. Yeah, No More Blues. Yeah. This is when Lalo Schifrin had joined the band. Lalo Schifrin was a great pianist from Argentina who came to the United States and played with Dizzy for a number of years, and then went on to be a great composer, a film composer, TV. He did the theme for Mission Impossible. I mean, Lalo Schifrin did a lot of great music. Great pianist, still with us. So Dizzy's music, Dizzy trumpet playing just grabbed me. I mean, it was just so cool, and his command of the instrument. And then I began to study Dizzy a little bit more, and I found out about a man named Charlie Parker. Because Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie and Thelonious Monk and Bud Powell and Max Roach and a couple other cats in the mid-40s invented a musical form called Bebop. Let me pull up some imagery here. You know, I put up a video yesterday. Pardon my back here for a moment. I wish I was better connected. Let's see here. Oh, there I am. Oh my God. Dizzy Gillespie. Let me see here. Where did I put it? This week. Boy, am I poorly organized, huh? Am I poorly organized or what? I live on the chaos theory, you know? In my head, I'm organized, but everything else is total chaos for me. Pardon me for 1 minute here. I apologize. Where did it go? I got so many videos here. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, let's get rid of the ad. Sorry about those ads that appear on my videos. I got to make some money, you know? Okay, we're not going to do the audio from that. Oh, where is that here? Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, I put up this video yesterday. My friend Dave Frank, who some of you might know, just a remarkable pianist and teacher. Excuse me. He recorded a solo piano version of Dizzy's A Night in Tunisia. And he asked me to put some visuals to it. Excuse me here. Let me have another sip of my drink. I need some vodka here. That would be nice, right? Shout out to Tito's Vodka. Oh, that's good. Thank you for the shirt, by the way. Thank you for the compliment of my shirt. This is from Nepal. So going back here, let's see. Bird and Diz. Man, unbelievable. You know, when they were at Minton's Playhouse and they were playing this music initially, people were like, older jazz musicians were like, that's not jazz. What are you doing? Because they were taking traditional chord changes and melodies and just taking them out, you know, to a different place. And it was new and it was not readily accepted. Of course, a lot of younger musicians were heavily into it. The younger musicians being people like Sonny Rollins and Jackie McLean and my friend Walter Bishop Jr., who were teenagers. They were hanging out. They were going to Mitten's Playhouse, and lo and behold, they were digging this music. And it was hard to play initially for many people. They didn't hear it. They didn't want to play it. But as we know, it soon became the standard. And Bird, or Charlie Parker, unfortunately, was not with us for very long. Consequently, he only lived to 35. He burned himself out, a victim of his own excesses, heroin, but his music, his playing, influenced so many musicians. So many alto players wanted to play like Bird. They got strung out because they thought, oh, if I'm high, I'll be able to play better. Oh, that's not true, unfortunately. All those cats left us much too soon. In fact, Sonny Rollins was one of those people as well. There is an infamous recording session that took place, not with Dizzy, but with Sonny Rollins, Charlie Parker, and Miles Davis, a session that Ira Gittler produced. On my channel elsewhere, you can find the story of this particular session. It was a crazy session at Rudy Van Gelder's in Hackensack. I think it was 52, 53. Sonny was still strung out at that point. Bird was off and on, and when Bird came to the session and he saw Sonny, he said, "Are you using, man?" Of course, he could tell immediately. Sonny said, "Oh no, man, I'm cool." And I think shortly thereafter was the point that who's the guest today? I'm the guest today. Still haven't figured out that guest software yet. Sorry, folks. It's coming. Anyway, that session with Charlie Parker was the impetus for Sonny to finally get straight. So Bebop took a little while, and then it became like the standard for music. And also there was a whole culture that went with it as well. In a way that hip-hop culture, rap culture kind of mirrored that. And that jazz musicians had their own way to dress, these cool berets, and the language, that they utilized different words. Of course, it wasn't a bebopper, it was a tenor player from the swing generation who gave us the wide use of a word that everybody uses today, but he was the first. Anybody, any guesses as to who the musician was and what the word was that he utilized, that he brought to prominence? It was Lester Young. Yeah, let me repeat this video. Lester Young, and the word was cool. And Lester Young was really the first person to use that. How many people use that word cool now? My goodness. So the beboppers had their own way of talking because they were a little bit different. They wanted to, their music was different, and they didn't mind standing out, so to speak. They wanted to be different. And it wasn't long before many people adopted that. Many people adopted the language, the look, and eventually the music. And a lot of trumpet players wanted to play like Dizzy. Of course, I don't think Lester Young was a New Yorker. I don't know his exact birthplace. Someday we're going to have Lauren Schoenberg on here, or maybe Phil Schaap. They're both Lester Young experts. Dizzy with Ella. Yeah, Dizzy with Mingus. Dizzy with Duke. I was just listening yesterday to a 1959 recording Jazz Party. Duke Ellington with his band with special guest Dizzy Gillespie. And Mr. 5x5, Jimmy Rushing. So Diz and Bird changed the world musically. Bird left in 55. Dizzy did not fall prey to heroin or those things, although Dizzy Gillespie was a I coughed in advance there. A cannabis enthusiast. Upper Manhattan Medical Group, yeah. Prez was from Mississippi. New Orleans, I don't know. I gotta look that up. So Dizzy was a cannabis enthusiast. I once got high with Dizzy. That's another story. Louis Armstrong is a big cannabis enthusiast. In fact, Louis Armstrong once had Richard Nixon smuggle marijuana through customs. It's a true story. On a flight back from Europe into New York once, Louis Armstrong had some marijuana in a paper bag, and he wasn't really sure how he was going to get it through customs. So he was hanging with Nixon during the flight. He talked to Nixon, and as they were getting off the plane, he said, "Oh, could you hold this for me?" And Nixon said, "Sure." And they walked through, and when they walked through customs, they never checked Nixon. And Pops either. He walked out, Nixon gave him the bag. Richard Nixon, marijuana carrier. Highly recommend Dizzy's autobiography as well. Let me see if I got that here. Where is that book? Oh, man. Holy cow. Content all over the place. I got content. I got books. I got CDs. Not too many LPs. I got a few LPs. No 45s. I got some cassettes. Man. I have some cassettes of live gigs. So, I got the Dizzy Big Band Live, which I recommend. Dizzy Gillespie Live at Newport in 1957. I got Dizzy Live on the French Riviera, which was a wonderful recording. There's like Coltrane. Coltrane, this is a thing on from Life Magazine did a thing about Dizzy, and they talked about Bebop. And here he is with Benny Carter. Showing what different ways that they shook hands. That was a magical era. And then finally, when I was 14, my trumpet teacher took me to hear Dizzy live. Dizzy played a Sunday matinee in Hartford at a club called the Hofbauer House. New York was halfway between New York and Boston. So bands would go up to Boston for the weekend. They would play at Paul's Mall, or Jazz Workshop, or Lenny's on the Turnpike. And then they would drive back to New York, and they would stop in Hartford on Sunday, and they would play in Hartford to pick up another gig. So, 14 years old, there's the Dizzy Gillespie Quintet. And it was the band you see here with Rudy Collins on drums, James Moody, incredible James Moody, who got to be a good friend, Kenny Barron on piano, and, oops, I forgot the bass player. Was it Bob Cunningham? I don't know. One more time for my Dizzy video here. So I got to meet Dizzy. I was 14 years old. I asked him one question. I said, "Dizzy, are you ever going to get your big band back together?" He said, "Maybe." That's all I had to say to Dizzy Gillespie. What did I know? I was a kid. But he sat at the table. He was just being around him was really cool. And then I saw him a number of times when I finally moved to New York, in different configurations, with big bands and small groups. And I saw him as a guest with Sonny and with Charles Mingus. And Dizzy was, in addition to being a great trumpeter, he was an entertainer. He was like someone that like brought the audience into the music because of the strength of his personality. He was a very funny guy. Dizzy. I mean, his name is John Burks Gillespie from Cheraw. I lived in New York City from 68 to 2001. From Cheraw, South Carolina, and areas with the Muppets. So you got a guy with a great personality, a great sense of humor, and he ends up being Dizzy. And how about that trumpet? I think it was at Birdland. Somebody sat on his horn one night, and he does it still play? He played it. He found the bell to be closer to his ear, so he decided to keep it. So that was one of his trademarks, the upper trumpet. And there's the trumpet section of his big band. They also had those trumpets. This is a clip here from a movie called Jivin' and Bebop, which you can check out on YouTube. It was 1948. Dizzy had several big bands. Of course, a big band's a tricky thing economically to keep it going. And of course, those cheeks. My goodness. I never played a Dizzy trumpet. But Dizzy had it all. He was loved all over the world. Still listen to his music. Still love Dizzy Gillespie. He was in his 80s when he passed. I think he had two significant proteges. One was John Faddis. I remember when John Faddis arrived in the early 70s from Oakland, California. He was 19 years old. Yes, Arturo in a second I'll talk about. John Faddis arrived and like, wow. I mean, that was the White House jazz party in 77, where Dizzy played trumpet, Max played drums, and Jimmy Carter sang Salt Peanuts. I wasn't there. You can find the complete performance of that on sugarmegs.org. It was a great day. Great night. Yeah. I lost my thought. Lenny's on the Turnpike. Jackie Byard. Yeah, Jackie Byard, fantastic pianist. Check out that recording he did live at Lenny's on the Turnpike with Joe Farrell. That was an amazing band in the 60s. I got a chance to see them live. Well, Dizzy was a bright spirit, incredible musician, brought a lot of people into the music. And, that's not something you can fake. You either have a sense of humor, you either want to communicate with the audience, or you don't. It's not something that, you just can't fake that. And Dizzy had that. He had that spirit. He had that sense of humor. He was just a really funny guy. I remember one night he came out and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce the members of the group." And you're assuming, well, so-and-so's on tenor and so-and-so's on piano. And James Moody, I want you to meet Rudy. And he introduced the members of the group to each other. He did a lot of stuff like that. I mean, some people said, "Oh, Dizzy's a clown. He fools around too much." The music was always great. And also some people said, well, his later music wasn't that interesting. Well, a lot of Dizzy's later input is on Pablo Records, which was Norman Granz's label. And he put Dizzy in a variety of settings. And of course, I can't forget in 1963 when Dizzy ran for president. Dizzy had charisma to the max. In fact, when I was in junior high school, when I was in 8th grade, I used to wear, 7th grade, I used to wear a Dizzy Gillespie for president button every day. I don't know how many times I can keep repeating this video. But there was a song, Dizzy held a press conference at the Monterey Jazz Festival. Vote Diz, Jon Hendricks wrote a song. I think you could actually buy that track. He was also in an animated film. I mean, Dizzy did a lot. Dizzy did a lot in his life. And his later recordings. Thank you, Brain. It popped in there. So a lot of interesting pairings on Pablo Records. Of course, somebody mentioned before, one of the great Verve recordings Dizzy did was with Sonny Stitt and Sonny Rollins, the three of them. That was just a monster of a recording. Put those three. When you put great musicians together, sometimes it's just interesting. Sometimes they really like they really like inspire each other, and that's that recording. And the name of it I forgot right now, of course. If anybody, what's the name of the recording with Dizzy, Sonny Stitt, and Sonny Rollins? That track, You Know What I Know. Ooh. So later on, and also I forgot to mention Dizzy's Latin thing. Eternal Triangle. Thank you. Is that the recording or is that the track? Not sure. Sunny Side Up. All those are on there. I forget the name of the LP. Anyway, Dizzy always had a very strong interest in Latin music. And in the 40s, he brought a conga player into his big band, Chano Pozo, from Cuba. And brought in Latin music and machito and all that stuff, all that great music. And introduced many, many people to that. Big ears Dizzy had. He loved different sounds. And now, later on, he also played fusion music, so to speak. In fact, I put up a track yesterday called Unicorn, which was on one of his Pablo recordings. Lala Schifrin did the arrangement of it. And Dizzy starts out, he plays an instrument he put together himself called the rhythm stick, which is basically a stick that he attached all these metal objects to it so that when he shook it, it made these great sounds. And Sunny Side Up was the album. Okay, thank you. So if you look at that video I put up, Unicorn, he plays the rhythm stick in the beginning, and he's got a couple of guitar players on there. His later groups usually had guitar players. Some great musicians went through Dizzy's band. We lost one of Dizzy's favorite piano players who played with him for years, Mike Longo. He was one of the first jazz musicians to die from corona about a month ago, I think. Very sad. Mike was a beautiful cat arranger and shared with Dizzy. Dizzy was, I would say Dizzy was a religious man, but he was a man of faith. He was practicing, he was Baha'i. I don't know what you guys know about the Baha'i faith, but it's not like evangelical Christians or any of that stuff. It's not like an organized faith. It's more about people being together. I'm not advocating that you get into Baha'i, but something you might want to check out. It's really a good thing. Dizzy was Baha'i. Yeah. One of Dizzy's last bands, this is interesting. Dizzy was always a straight-ahead player. He really didn't go over into the avant-garde thing. But one of Dizzy's last sax players, I think Ron Holloway, my friend Ron Holloway was Dizzy's last saxophonist on the recommendation of Sonny Rollins. Ron's a great tenor player. But before that, I think two bands before that, Sam Rivers played with Dizzy. I think Walter Davis Jr. was in the band too, my friend who was a pianist. Sam Rivers, way outside, but he could also play inside, as he did with Dizzy. I think it was Dizzy like 3 or 4 years. Funny, I just remembered, I just went to a party at Dizzy's house in Englewood, New Jersey. This is like late 70s, I guess, early 80s. He wasn't there, his wife wasn't there either. I forget who, Larry Ridley, I don't know, someone invited me to the party, and it was at Dizzy's house, and we swam in his pool. We didn't go inside. Yeah. Dizzy Gillespie. Can't be duplicated, when these people leave us. Luckily, they leave us with their music. And if they were alive after 1950, there's probably some video. There's a lot of video of Dizzy Gillespie on YouTube. I've put a lot of it up myself when I found it. I never got a chance to interview Dizzy or shoot video with him. Circumstances just didn't, that never happened. But I just hang out with him and I spent time with him. And we're on the YouTube. Now here's a track I got here. Let me see if I can play a little bit of this here. I'm gonna put the volume up here. I don't know if the YouTube gods will cut me off here. What do we got here? Okay. Yeah. Sonny Stitt and James and Dizzy Gillespie. Yeah, is that J.C. Hurd on drums? I forget when this recorded. Yeah, I think it's Ray Brown on bass. Yeah, that's straight ahead jazz, boy. That is straight ahead jazz at its best. Can you guys hear that? Hey Stiff, what's going on here? Can you guys pick up the audio? Yeah, I like younger musicians. I mean, I love Roy Hargrove. I love Chris Potter. Joel Fram is an excellent player. Brad Meldau. I am in Tucson, Arizona. I don't get back to New York as much as I would like. Consequently, my exposure to younger musicians, I gotta turn Stitt down. It's hard for me to concentrate if Sonny Stitt is improvising too much in the background. I get my new music from Smalls, from the nightly webcasts from Smalls and Mesros. And there's a lot of young players on there. That's how I find out about a lot of young musicians. I am not in a place where there is a nightly jazz radio program. Sadly, there are too many. Are there any full-time jazz stations left? I mean, there's WBGO in the New York area. There's K-Jazz in LA. Maybe you guys let me know. Are there any full-time jazz radio stations where you live? People out there? KCSM. The local jazz scene in Tucson is non-existent. Why did I move to Arizona? That is the subject of an entire webcast right there. But lack of full-time stations, incredible jazz like on the internet. By the way, WKCR still plays jazz. I don't know why you say I miss WKCR. There's still jazz alternatives, and there's still musician shows. And we have satellite radio. As it turns out, real jazz on Sirius FM, Rhonda Hamilton, who used to be on BGO for many, many years, is now on real jazz. There's a lot of jazz on satellite radio and also on Pandora. And on Pandora, you could set up your own stations. For example, I set up a Horace Silver station on Pandora. I'm a huge Horace Silver fan. We'll talk about Horace some other time. And I just turn that on and it just stays. But, the thing about these internet jazz stations, aside from real jazz, where Rhonda Hamilton and Les Davis and Euless, Kathy, and some other people, the DJs don't talk as much as they used to. No, his real name is John Burks Gillespie. Because in the other era, the Symphony Sid era, the Ed Beach era, the Mort Fega era, the DJs would talk about the music at length. First of all, they would introduce every musician, and that was so and so on alto, so and so, so who the musicians were, and perhaps a little story about it, so that it gave you something to get into in addition to the music. That's how I learned. That's how I learned about jazz. I learned about jazz radio, and when I was a kid in Hartford, there was a nightly jazz program called the Golden Sound of Jazz for 2 nights, 2 or 3 hours a night. A chap named John Burchard that introduced me to a lot of music. And then record stores, going to the record stores and reading the liner notes, actually standing in the store and picking up the LPs, and I don't have any LPs close, and actually reading the liner notes. Well, as fate would have it, I wrote a lot of liner notes. When I became a jazz writer, one of the things that I did, in addition to writing for Downbeat in the 70s, I did a lot of liner notes. That was a lot of fun. That's gone now. You really rarely find any audio, any liner notes on streaming music on Spotify or Pandora or anything like that, unfortunately. And then I got it from reading jazz magazines. I used to read Downbeat magazine religiously. And then 12 years later, I ended up writing for Downbeat magazine. Yeah. And then I also was honored to write the liner notes. Well, it wasn't the liner notes, it was the booklet for Maynard Ferguson, the roulette years. My other guiding light as a trumpeter when I was young was Maynard Ferguson. There were three: Dizzy Gillespie, Maynard Ferguson, and Lee Morgan. I loved Maynard Ferguson. I saw him live. Wonderful person. I interviewed him on his 70th birthday. That is also here on YouTube. But I had a dear friend who's no longer with us named Bob Belden, who was a musician and a producer and arranger. And I knew Michael Cascuna, and I knew about Mosaic Records. But what is this? Get rid of that. I don't want that. Let me see here. Here's Dexter Gordon playing Blues Walk. Yeah.
And now we'd like to do
an
original written by Sonny Stitt.
Yeah.
This one is called
Looks a bit like Obama, doesn't he? Resemblance between Obama and
Walk Loosely.
Yeah. Dexter Gordon, great introductions as well. But so I did Bob who was friendly with Michael Cascuna, who became a friend of mine as well, did the I got hired to do the booklet for the Maynard Ferguson roulette years, which is since now out of print. Some of the best writing I've ever done. And I interviewed a lot of cats, all the cats that I listened to, like Micah Benny, who became a friend, and Ronnie Cooper, and Lanny Morgan, and Slide Hampton, and I wanted to interview Maynard. This was in 94. No, it was 92. Yeah. So I got his number, and he didn't return my phone calls. And then someone told me, well, talk to his wife, Flo. She kind of set up. They wouldn't do it. And then I found out why Maynard Ferguson didn't want to talk about a beautiful part of his recorded legacy was because at the time he was signed to Roulette Records. Roulette Records was owned by, anybody know? Give you a hint. He also owned Birdland, the original Birdland. Nobody? He was a Jewish gangster. So Jewish gangster owned. Sonny Rollins is doing okay. He's surviving. He's not playing, but he's okay. He takes care of himself. Lives in a beautiful place. Okay, back to Roulette Records, Sonny Rollins. The man's name was Morris Levy. Morris Levy was the son of a bitch. I mean, he was a mafia. He was connected to the mafia, and he wasn't somebody you wanted to mess with. So he signed Maynard Ferguson in the late 50s. Maynard, not Meyer Lansky, no. Not so many Jewish gangsters. So anyway, Maynard Ferguson had a group called the Birdland Dream Band. They would play Birdland a lot. Yes, Tommy James and the Shondells, exactly. And they were hooked up to Murder Incorporated. So Maynard Ferguson signed the contract, and did all these recordings for Roulette and never received any royalties at all. Of course, they played the Birdland on these incredible triple bills every night. By the way, Pee Wee, I'm not going to say Pee Wee Herman. Now I forgot the name of the host at Birdland. Pee Wee Marquette, thank you. You might have heard him introducing some of those Birdland recordings. Pee Wee Marquette was not a man. That's right. Pee Wee Marquette was a lesbian. You heard it here. It's true. I know that because I met her once, many years later. In fact, after Birdland closed, Pee Wee Marquette was the doorman at Hawaii Kai on Broadway in a uniform. He was a midget. Or, excuse me, that's not a bad word. He was height impaired. What is the politically correct way to say someone was born less than tall? I don't want to offend anyone. But, by the way, little person. Speaking of pornography, I don't know, that came into my perspective. Do you know there's a form of pornography? There are, how can I describe this? This is totally off the subject here. Transsexual dominatrix midgets. Yes, go to a porn site. You can find that. Anyway, Birdland, yeah. So Birdland was just, a great club. I think it was like 49 to 63. Then it closed, and John Valenti opened up. No, I'm not into transsexual midget pornography. I just find it interesting. Although I have. This is the subject of another podcast that has nothing. Another webcast that has nothing to do with jazz. I have worked in the adult entertainment industry. Yes, it's true. When I went to film school, I was actually a cameraman on some porn films. And I also was a ghostwriter for an anti-porn crusader in the 80s. Yeah, I'll drink to that. Father Bruce Ritter. Anyway, so Birdland. John Valenti reopened Birdland in the 80s. I think it was on 103rd Street and Broadway. And then eventually moved it down to 44th Street, where it is today. It's one of the great jazz clubs in New York City today. It has been for a long time. We did the live webcast from there in December of '99 with the Saxophone Summit and Dave Brubeck. So Birdland. So Bird was the inspiration for Birdland, and thank you, Michael. Appreciate the kind words about this video. Yeah, we're going to do more videos with Dave. I'm going to bring Dave on here. Yeah, I want to talk about, I love female jazz vocalists, Betty Carter, Nina Simone, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Dinah Washington, Diane Reeves is also excellent. That's the thing about jazz. It's a form where individuals stand out, because jazz allows people to reach deep inside, to bring out their creativity, to bring out their individual voices. Cassandra Wilson, beautiful woman and incredible singer from Mississippi. My smoothie. Gene Lee. I once did a film with Gene Lee. Oh my God. 1973. I did a film with Frank Lowe and Rashid Ali. It was a short film called Street Music. I have it on 16 millimeter. I gotta get it transferred someplace here. Why? Here's an interesting question. Why do you think most players are male? They used to be. But that's changing. And of course, the big point of contention is, why are there no women in the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra? Oh, Winton, I don't know why you do that, man. Because there are some fantastic women playing music. I just thought about Claire Daly, a friend of mine. Fantastic baritone sax player. She can hold her own with anybody. Why isn't she in the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra? Why don't they hire women? The world is changing. Melba Liston, great trombone player. She played with Dizzy, and Randy Welston. We're gonna have Randy's autobiographer, Willard Jenkins, come on here. Nikki Parrott, yes. Men, older men, I think, are afraid of women. That's a generational thing. Younger people, not so much. Esperanza Spalding, wow, incredible success story. I got to shoot some video with Esperanza when she first arrived on the scene. No women empires, but I think there's the first woman football coach in the NFL. I don't know if she's the head coach, but I think she's the defense coach or something like that. I'd be much happier if women ruled the world. You know, men totally fucked it up, let's face it. Yeah. Terry Lynn Carrington. Ileana Elias. See, we all know great women who are, you know, an important part of this music. Making Emily Rumler, a wonderful guitar player. Who wants to be an empire? Everyone hates them. Blossom Dearie. Check her out on my channel. Great vocalist. Yes, we need a woman for president. I think we might be getting a woman vice president. I don't know what's going to happen here, if there's going to be an election. But supposedly Biden is going to choose a woman, maybe Stacey Abrams, a black woman from Georgia, or Kamala Harris from California. Who could predict? I'm not going to predict. 3 months ago, I wouldn't have predicted there would be a pandemic. You don't know what's coming down here. Sarah Palin, what did she play? Elizabeth Warren, is she a tenor player? Yeah, Dexter. Dexter is one of those cats who went to Europe. You know, Terry Gibbs is a good friend of mine. He's going to be on here too. He had a wonderful vibist. Well, first of all, Terry Gibbs hired Alice Coltrane for his group of the 60s. Terry Gibbs is the man who introduced Alice to John Coltrane. How about that? He had a fantastic vibist who played with him, Terry Pollard. Is that her name? Oops, I forgot. So you got to get the right women, but there's a lot of real amazingly talented women out there, and they should be in the forefront. It was called Round Midnight, not Around Midnight. A lot of great musicians in that movie. Herbie was in there, Bobby Hutcherson, John McLaughlin was in that movie. Wow. Yeah. Dexter Gordon. Let's see, what do we got here? Oh, yes.
We'd like to.
Yeah, we'd like to as well. Thank you, YouTube. I mean, YouTube. Wow. It just helps keep people alive. And when I look at the stats for people who watch my videos, it's literally from all over the world, every single country. Yes, Neil, go check out Round Midnight. Definitely worth your time if you're into jazz. It's a good film. It's not a great film, but it's one of the best films. This version of Horace playing, what is he playing here? He's playing Song for My Father. Thank you. This was the band with Billy Cobham on drums and Benny Maupin on tenor, and I think Charles Tolliver on trumpet here? Yeah. So I just put up a Horace Silver video interview. It's kind of rare. You don't see many Horace Silver interviews. It was from a program in 1970 called Soul. This was a PBS program. Yeah, I'm sorry, Bill Hardman on trumpet. Yeah, Soul was a PBS program, and there was one dedicated to Blue Note Records, and Horace's group was on there with the group was called United States of Mind. I'm going to be putting a couple clips up from that session. And also Lee Morgan, a rare TV appearance. He played 2 songs. actually 3. He played an abbreviated version of the Sidewinder. He played Angel and he played, excuse me, Harold Mayburn's composition, I Remember Brit. And of course, Lee Morgan, fantastic. But that interview that I put up of Horace was from that 1970s. That is Quest Cowboys, Song for My Father, Horace Silver. You know, Horace started as a saxophonist. I love Julie Semple too, by the way. Love the World Saxophone Quartet. Horace started as a tenor player in Norwalk, Connecticut, and he switched to piano. It's interesting because a lot of his approach, in a way, sounds like a sax player. Horace was a wonderful man. What a composer, what groups, what fantastic groups he led. Certainly one of my early influences, Song for My Father, Cape Verdean Blues, the Jody Grind, those 3 recordings he did on Blue Note in the mid-70s. He did some recordings in the late 70s, early 80s that are lost, unfortunately. Silver and brass, silver and percussion, silver and voices, silver and strings that he did. Oh, check those out. Yeah. Horace just passed away a few years ago. I got a chance to interview him once myself. Wow. He came to prominence with Stan Getz. I think Horace worked a gig in Hartford and was the pianist, and Stan Getz heard him. He liked him so much, he hired him. Horace went to New York and he got a gig with a trio. I think he talks about that in the interview. And then Blue Note signed him, and Horace was recording for Blue Note Records. Made a number of recordings. There's a organic simplicity to Found Bay's Super Channel. Yes, we're listening to Horace Silver, if you've just joined us, playing Song for My Father. And his comping. Oh my God. Love his comping. Someone just said, oh, can you compare Herbie to... Oh, Stan Getz was an interesting character. I gotta tell you my Stan Getz story sometime. But you can't compare people. How can you compare Horace Silver to Herbie Hancock? Totally different music, totally different piano, totally different people. Both unique, both incredible musicians. Yeah. Thank you, Horace. I gotta go food shopping today, which means I gotta put my mask on and I gotta put my gloves on. I gotta go out there to protect myself. I don't wanna get it, that's for sure. I don't wanna get on a respirator. Oh boy, I got my fingers crossed. You never know, I'm taking care of myself though. JC, just kidding. Okay, well, if you write it and I read it, I think it's real. No, I'm not leaving. My astrologer, I had cancer a couple years ago. I survived that. My astrologer tells me that he doesn't see me leaving anytime soon. I'm going to be here for a while. I still got a lot of work to do. I still got films I want to make, books I want to write. I'm working on some cool stuff now. I'm not going to stop. I don't think it's going to fail me. Thankfully, medical technology can keep us alive much longer than ever before. And certainly, I take care of myself. You know, when you get cancer, when you come face to face with cancer, and you look at your mortality, it changes you. It's changed my life, and it certainly changed the way that I take care of myself. Now, I'm in Tucson, Arizona. I get more exercise. I'm a lot more careful with what I eat, my supplements. I meditate. I just do what I can to survive. You know, there's always the unexpected. So that's it for today. After I get off here, I'm going to put those Dizzy Gillespie links in the description so you can check them out. I love you, Dizzy. One of my first inspirations, man whose trumpet playing, personality, and humanity will continue to be part of me